Hello, readers and writers. This week we're talking about fiction. We've read a few different fiction stories so far this week and talked about the different elements of fiction, the parts. Today we're looking at a different kind of fiction, and that is poetry or poems. Now, poems can be fiction. Sometimes they can be nonfiction, to be honest. They can be about real information. But poems also have the elements of fiction. The same ones that we've been talking about, only poems can have them sometimes and not other times. So sometimes poems can have characters, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes poems have a setting, and sometimes they don't. If it's a poem about a character, it might not have a setting. If it's a poem about a setting, it might not have characters. Poems almost always, though, have descriptive phrases, which is what we've been focusing on this week. Writing them, reading them, finding them. Today we're going to be finding descriptive phrases in poetry. And then one thing that poems have that other kinds of fiction, other stories don't have, is rhyming. Sometimes poems rhyme. However, I'm going to tell you sometimes poetry does not rhyme. I actually write poetry and my poetry doesn't usually rhyme. So a lot of these things are changing from poem to poem. But descriptive phrases, that is part of almost all poetry. Poetry is about describing, telling more, painting mental pictures. I am going to show you how to read a poem and try to find the different parts of a poem. In order to do this, you will need a notebook and something to write with. I am using my notebook and I have something to write with. The poem that I'm going to be reading to you and showing you how to pick apart is called Maggie and Millie and Molly and May by E.E. Cummings. He's one of my favorite poets. The way I would like you to set up your page today for this assignment is at the top of your page, write the title of the poem. What is it called? Underneath the title, you'll write the author's name by E.E. Cummings. Then you should have 4 parts on the side of your page. Notice that I wrote a word and then skipped a line to give myself a little bit of space. So the first thing you'll need to write is characters with a little colon next to it, or you could do a little dash. So characters. If there are characters in my poem, I'll write down who the characters are. If there are not characters in my poem, I would say none. The setting. What is the setting of the poem? Can you tell? If you can tell, write what it is. If you can't, say none or I'm not sure. Then, is it a rhyming poem? This is yes or no. Does it rhyme or does it not have rhyming? Because poetry, like we said, can be either or, rhyming or not rhyming. And then the last thing I want you to do is write descriptive phrases. Remember from yesterday that a descriptive phrase is 2 or more words working together to paint a mental picture. So does it have descriptive phrases? Probably, and I want you to write a few of them. So I'm going to show you how to fill out your page once you set this up. My poem is on my computer because I do not have this poem in print. It's not called E.E. Cummings. It looks like it's called 10 maybe? Oh, it's called Maggie and Millie and Molly and May. I already knew that. Okay, I'm going to read it a few lines at a time. When it's broken up into 2 lines like this, it's called couplets. So I'm going to read the first couplet. It says, Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day. Okay, I already have a lot of information. I have 4 characters. So on my paper, next to characters, I'm going to write Maggie and Millie and Molly and May. If you have a lot of characters in your poem, you'll be glad that you skipped a line if you did that like I did. And the setting is that they're at the beach. already I've filled out 2 parts. Now, rhyming. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to keep reading, and I'm going to look for some descriptive phrases that I can record. Maggie, okay, we already did that. Maggie and Millie and Molly and May went down to the beach to play one day, and Maggie discovered a shell that sang so sweetly she couldn't remember her troubles. And Millie befriended a stranded star whose rays 5 languid fingers were. And Molly was chased by a horrible thing which raced sideways while blowing bubbles. And May came home with a smooth round stone, as small as a world and as large as a lone. I just read a lot, but I kind of got on a roll there, and I noticed that things are rhyming. May rhymes with day. Sang kind of rhymes with and. Star and were. Those don't totally rhyme, but stone and alone rhymes. Me and see. So I'm going to say that, yes, this is a rhyming poem. Oh, my pen just falling apart. Yes, it's rhyming. And then for descriptive phrases, some phrases that I saw that painted a mental picture for me were when May came home with a smooth, round stone. The words smooth and round paint a mental picture for me. I can imagine a stone that's smooth and round. So under descriptive phrases or next to it, I can write smooth, round stone. In the same couplet, in the same 2 lines, the next part stuck out to me too. The smooth round stone is as small as a world and as large as a lone. As small as a world seems funny to me because the world seems large, but it says as small as a world and as large as a lone. The feeling of being alone can sometimes feel very big. That can be a big feeling. So I'm going to choose these 2 phrases. Small as a world doesn't make so much sense to me, but it's interesting, and honestly I think it's descriptive. It paints a picture. And small as a world and large as alone. The feeling of being alone can feel large. And then the last couplet says, for whatever we lose, like a you or a me, it's always ourselves that we find in the sea. So that's the poem I chose. You are going to pick your own poem from the options, and I want you to set up your notebook like this. The title of the poem at the top, the author's name, if you can find it, and then your paper should have 4 parts on the side. Characters, setting, rhyming. Does it rhyme? If so, yes. If not, no. And then descriptive, I should have boxed them both, descriptive phrases. And I would say, see if you can find 2 descriptive phrases from the one poem. If you can't find 2, try to find 1. All right, poets, get to work.